Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have David Stange, founder of Beachy, a B2B hospitality technology company serving the nation's top resorts and beachside vendors. David, I'm so excited to chat with you in particular because as we were talking before the show, any technology that's kind of integrated or building, or, working within a space that's been around forever. I mean, hospitality has been around since the dawn of time. I assume once we started building huts and maybe there was some Airbnbs in a previous life, but it's so exciting to see how technology is kind of enabling companies to do, old processes better. And I'm so excited to chat with you about how you've been able to integrate that and also what it's like selling into companies. But before we get into all of that good stuff, talk about the stressful vacation that led to Beachy. That I think you denoted it, that there was one experience that really kind of was the antithesis for, building the Beachy and kind of going on this journey.
Yeah. So first, Julian, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here. And, it's amazing. You think some of the best ideas come out of personal experiences, some of the best businesses. And it wasn't that long ago, my daughter was born. I go down to the beach, my first vacation as a dad. I'm super excited. Like I'm in my hometown, back visiting my parents on a beach that I grew up on. And I just had a really bad experience. I mean, standing in line, waiting there would seem like forever, to rent chairs from the kid that used to be me. And I just had this epiphany moment, like sitting there holding my little baby girl. And it was like, why can't I book my beach chairs? Same way I booked my airline seat, same time I made my hotel reservation. And I looked around, talked to a lot of different people, and the product just didn't exist. There had not been a point of sale system built specifically for the unique needs like of running a beach and pool operation. And so that was what we set out to build, that product's on, I don't know. I mean, over 1,000 destinations now across the United States and Caribbean. And we've just had a ton of fun, it's beachy for crying out loud, so I get to travel and our team gets to travel to great, hotel destinations across the country. And that was the first product we built. It certainly expanded from there. We're doing a lot of different things and a lot of different verticals within hospitality, but, really just started with just having a really bad vacation experience. And I think that first day of vacation, whether it's your first time or, the last time you're on vacation, but like, it is just, you get there and you're so excited and you just want it to be perfect. And when it's not, you just, it's like, I've been anticipating this vacation for some people, maybe it's 5 years, cause with COVID and everything else, they haven't been on vacation. It seems like forever. And they just want it to be perfect. And when it's not, that's just it just creates a really bad taste in people's mouths. And that was, hopefully we're a part of making that experience better.
Yeah. Talk about, you said you were a beach boy at one point, kind of selling and distributing the chairs. And what was that experience like? And did you grab from that experience to kind of build some of the features and mechanics around how people would actually use from the point of sale perspective versus the customer perspective?
Yeah. I mean, when I was 14 years old, I grew up in the Florida Panhandle, and my dad kind of came to me earlier that year and said, "Hey, David, like you're not going to be allowed to lay on the couch all summer. Like you got to go find a job, man." And so, where else would I want to work, right? Other than to go get a job on the beach. So I did that every summer until I graduated from college. So 14 until I was 22. And I think, certainly it had a huge impact on how we built the product and like what the product looked and felt like, based off the experiences that I had. And like Tanner, who was Beachy's first employee, he was a beach boy, so like he had a little bit different experience than I had. So it was coming together to build this what we considered to be, like the perfect product for beach attendants to use. And I'd say, honestly, one of the biggest compliments that we get, and we hear it quite often, is obviously this was built by somebody who worked on the beach because whoever designed this or built it, like, gets it.
Yeah.
And we hear that pretty consistently, with our customers. And obviously that's a huge compliment to us and a big testament to the team that's behind us, actually building it. That's been, that's the hardest thing, right? Is I don't write code. Yeah. So, it's, you have this vision, you have this idea, and then you got to go find someone who can actually, put pen to paper and make it happen.
Yeah. And there's so many questions around the building process that I'm curious about, especially, as a non-technical founder and, working through that communication. But before we go into that, what in particular was missing with whether they had a system or didn't, and what was the challenges in terms of incorporating the information? I'm sure there's some kind of logging of how many, pieces of inventory you have and where those inventories are. And there's a whole intricate kind of almost like choreography to getting what you want when you want it and then returning it and continuing the cycle. What were the challenges that companies and product had at that time?
I mean, what most companies use to run their beach and pool operations is pencil and a clipboard. And then you were using the most sophisticated, like when we started this, 7 years ago, I'm not even exaggerating, Julian. We'd go down to a beach that we were trying to get, with the with the hotel. And I've seen, you probably, you're young enough, you may not even know what this is. They would literally have a carbon piece of paper and the credit card thing. Back and forth, and they would take those slips of paper at the end of the day and turn them into the front desk, and the front desk would run the credit card. I mean, this isn't 25 years ago. This is 7 years ago, right? I mean, this is, and it really, so it was, the beach ecosystem was really ripe for disruption. But if you think about it, it's really hard, right? I mean, it's sand and water. What are the two, what are two things you don't want your technology to touch, right? I mean, go through your iPhone, 5 years ago. Now you can probably get away with it. The technology, Apple technology is so good. But I mean, go throw your iPhone 4 into the water, it doesn't work anymore. Throw it in the sand, it doesn't work anymore. So there's certainly just a lot of challenges around, I mean, not only the software side of it and building something that would replace, clipboard and paper, which, sounds simple but it's not. I mean, because it's been used, the same thing has been used for so long. And most of our end users were, typically on some sort of substance, especially back in the early days. So we're dealing with guys that are, maybe not, have a couple
pina coladas deep.
Sure,
for
sure. Pina coladas would have been easier compared to what we dealt with. But so just taking something that's been run on clipboard and paper for a long time, digitizing it in an environment that's really hard to, put technology onto. So there were certainly, I mean, especially early days, I mean, just a lot of operational challenges, because we were coming in, really disrupting an industry that most people, it's funny, in the early days, even trying to go raise money, people would be like, oh, this is cute, but it's not a business, it's beach chairs, and we're and then having to explain to them, this is a bigger industry than what you think it is.
Yeah.
And then it took people realizing, well, once we establish that, then we can go into these other verticals, which, that's where the business is now. Right. And so it really took, finding investors that had a vision that shared my vision. Right. And, and getting told no over and over again.
Yeah.
And just being committed to I'm going to make this happen. I believe in it. And I don't give a shit if you do. But I'm going to go make this happen because I know how big the opportunity can be. So and listen, I mean, it's been, I was talking to my dad about this the other day, just the journey, it's you're not going straight up the mountain, right? You're going zigzagging on switchbacks back and forth to get to the top. And so, I mean, it's been a fun journey and I think we've created a really cool product.
Yeah. I've equated sometimes when they tell you how to walk through a blizzard and you go in diagonal, try to move forward, right? It's you don't always see where you're going to go or where you're going to end up, but that path is going to lead to something eventually. Right. When you talked about, kind of implementing the technology, especially in an environment that's difficult, what goes into the onboarding process? I'm assuming through the sales cycle, you have to talk to, I don't know if it's bottom up or top down, but once you kind of establish the technology or the relationship, how do you onboard and integrate? I'm assuming that there's going to have to be some operational changes. How hands-on did you have to be, or do you have to be when you're implementing Beachy?
So over Christmas break, we had some folks in town and we did a beach bonfire, and we did it on the first beach that Beachy ever operated on. Right. So it's awesome. There were 25 of us out there and we're just telling stories about Beachy, and no one except for me knew that it was the first beach that we ever transacted on.
Cool.
So I kept that from everybody until we got there. And I was like, hey, I want to tell you guys a story about this beach. And so we'd gotten some funding, but the other half of the funding was contingent on having an MVP that was running real transactions. Right. So no fake data. We had to have a customer that was transacting. And the beaches open on March 1st in the Florida Panhandle, right? They put out chairs March through October. And I remember going down to the beach March 1st, we got over in Beachy, we were ready to go. We got our first customer, like we are about to make some money. And we sat there for 4 days waiting to run a transaction. Yeah, it's come a long way since then. Yeah. We have now we have a very formal implementation process. We have implementation teams and customer support teams and customer success, but like all that's evolved, but also like our customer base has evolved too. And I think that we're lucky in this because hospitality is extremely slow to adopt new technology, right? So they're like Oracle or the Agilises of the world. I mean, like these big, like legacy companies that have been around a long time and like have the trust of the big, they can roll out technology. But when it comes to, an up and coming company like Beachy has been, like they're kind of looking at us like, who are you? Like they won't even look at us. And so our very first customers were outsourced third-party beach vending companies that had contracts to work for the hotels, right? So we were lucky in that, like our very first customers were not the brands or even management companies. They were these smaller, a lot of them mom and pop businesses that maybe have 2 or 3 different locations where they're running beach chairs. And so like that generated us a great base of business. So we were able to like kind of buy our time to be vetted by, the big brands before, like to get those deals done. Because if we would have gone straight to the brands or straight to the management companies, we would have run out of money. Like we didn't have enough funding to wait 5 years to get a contract with a flagged hotel, right? Or with one of the flags. And so like our sales cycles evolved, our implementation schedules. I mean, like everything has evolved.
Yeah.
And, we kind of kid about like, we're not playing youth soccer anymore. If you go like watch a little kid soccer game, like everyone runs to the ball, and like everyone's trying to get to the ball. And it's like, we can't play that way anymore. Right. Like, like we need to graduate to playing soccer the way that it was meant to be played. So
it's so fascinating. And I feel like a lot of companies take that approach where they work with who exactly is their use case, even if it's adjacent to maybe the logos or who you want to. I feel like that process kind of earns you a lot of feedback that then kind of creates a really honed in product and prepares you then to go up market. And what was that up market experience like? Did you have a plan or an implementation, or once you felt the product was at a certain point, then did you kind of go and shop it around, or was there interest already in the product to implement?
Yeah. So, I mean, there was some interest. Like we signed our first publicly traded company in 2019. That was a big deal for us. I mean, to break into that, which created a whole nother, like our customers were like all like mom and pop, small businesses. And then we signed our first publicly traded company and they're looking at our accounting requirements and they're like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work for us because, we're a publicly traded company. We have to have it all this way. So like we literally had to go like rebuild all of our like accounting, piece of our business to suit a publicly traded company, but we didn't know any better, so it was, certainly, I mean, there was interest, right? But the interest would come and go from the brands or from the management companies. Really what changed everything for Beachy was, like when you rent chairs or like you're at a pool or whatever, like outside of your hotel room and you get into a beach chair, pool chair, Beachy knows your name, like, cause we keep track of who's sitting in the chairs. We get payment information. So that way, like to reserve the chair, but most importantly, like we patented all of our mapping technology. So we know where every chair is on every beach and every pool at any given time. And with that, we realized how valuable those 3 pieces of information were. And so we started integrating into legacy food and beverage software, whether it was the microsystems or the infogenesis systems of the world, and really taking an existing legacy system and modernizing it. And so not going into a hotel and saying, we're going to take out Oracle or we're going to take out Agilisis, or we're going to implement a whole new point of sale system. It's like, we're just going to live on top of the existing systems, modernize them, bring them into the 21st century, running off 5G, and really, giving a better guest experience at the beach and pool, not only for being able to reserve the things that you want to do in advance of your stay. Now it's a food and beverage platform where, the cocktail server comes up to you. Hey, Julian, how you doing? Can I get you something to drink? Right. So now I was at Eden Rock in Miami Beach. It's one of my favorite hotels in Miami. It's a great customer of ours. I was there like 2 or 3 weeks ago now. I guess it was before Christmas. So, but my cocktail server showed up to my chair with exactly what I was going to order because they knew that I was going to order that. And like, when you want to talk about a VIP experience, right? Like they don't know who I am. I mean, but they show up. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. My cocktail server was a guy. I'm trying to remember his name, but he shows up and he's like, "Hey, David, I brought you your margarita Patron with Grand Marnier." And I was like, hell yes. Like, it's worth it. Like, this is amazing. Like, how,
man,
that to like, that was, I mean, it was the best experience I've ever had. Like, I mean, to juxtapose that to what I was 7 years ago, staying in line for 45 minutes, to get a chair, right?
Yeah.
So now, not only was my chair pre-reserved and waiting for me, my cocktail server shows up within 30 seconds of me sitting down with the drink that I was going to order. And I'm just like blown away. That's not a 5-star guest experience. That's a 10-star guest experience for me.
Yeah.
And by the way, that dude, he made more money that day than he probably has made any other day in his life, because I'm like, yeah, just keep bringing them. And like, at the end of the day, I signed the iPad. I'm like, custom tip, like, here you go, so,
yeah.
And like, cause to me, like, that's what this whole thing is about, right? It's empowering hotel staff with technology to provide a better guest experience. And so you've got, happier guests make happier employees, happier employees make happier management makes happier ownership. Right. And so but it starts with, empowering the staff. And like, I think that's one big mistake I made early on growing up in the hotel business. My dad's been a hotelier for 50. Like, I was like, I just need to make like the general managers happy. And like, if we can like give them software that they like, they'll make everyone else use it. And that was totally wrong. Like, that was definitely the wrong approach. You got to make the person who's using the software love it. And so if cocktail servers love it, then it makes everybody else happy. And so it's like the end user of, the $15 an hour cocktail server, telling me, if you take this iPad out of my hands, like, I quit. If you take Beachy away, I'll go to another hotel that has it. Like, that's empowering staff with technology and just driving home that guest experience.
That's an incredible. I was just in Hawaii recently, and not only getting a chair or getting a cocktail on the beach, like, it is a little bit of a strenuous process. And, I totally agree with the experience. It's like, if the experience is 10 out of 10 or 11 out of 10, and then, everything kind of trickles down. I'm having a great time. I'm happy to be more generous. I'm obviously on vacation, so I'm already kind of aware of the cost that I want to spend because of the hard-earned and hard work money. And it's so interesting that you went the other way in the approach and in that transition where you're affecting the end user, which was the cocktail server, because I can see by masses, if they are kind of, promoting or I guess giving good feedback around the technology, that it then kind of trickles down to everyone else, or trickles up to everyone else, and becomes a much more successful experience. And I'm curious though, kind of looking back on building the initial product as a non-technical founder, and then even now, as you've kind of, I'm assuming, gain more knowledge and have a better communication, what were you not so good at in the initial, MVP building process? And what are you better at now that kind of, add more features and get into more verticals with a more honed in technology?
Yeah. So patience was probably the biggest thing I've learned with technology, right? So Josh, who's the founding CTO of Beachy, him and I had some, like knockdown, drag out argument. Like, I mean, and it was this like brotherly love kind of situation where, like, long story, but Josh and I didn't know each other when we started the business. We met at a Nashville hot chicken restaurant called Hattie B's when I was living in Nashville. We talked for like 2 hours, and then boom, we started a business together. Yeah. And so it's not like we had like years of history, right? I mean, like, we just came together, had a mutual interest to build something great. And like, he was Josh. So Josh passed away, and Josh was genius. Like, he was one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I think that genius made him one of the most frustrating people I've ever met. And so it's learning patience, right? In that I'm not motivated by the same thing that you're motivated by, or that he's motivated by. And I found that technical people are not motivated like I am, and not say it that way. Like, they're not motivated by the same things. Yeah. So, and so it was just learning patience, and in that I cannot tell a customer that something's going to be done in a week. You just can't, right? You just, we're going to put in our roadmap. We'll keep you updated with progress when it's done, and now we're much better about gauging when things are going to be, and when things are going to get done. But early days, I mean, it was, learning patience and then not chasing the car, like we'd have a big customer prospect come and they're like, oh man, that would be great. We'd buy that if it did this.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, let's go build that. And it's like, and then like we went away from all these other priorities that were maybe more important or just as important, but we were trying to get this one customer, And so I think that it's, sticking to a roadmap, and having patience. I mean, like the things are not going to get done things are going to take twice as long and cost 4 times as much as you think they are.
Yeah. I guess, for early founders out there and kind of with your experience, what advice would you give them if they're, building a product or going into something that they feel strongly about, but maybe there's some pushback, there's some hurdles in terms of building, and maybe they're, they don't have the technology background, but they're looking to partner, what would help them kick off their products that in hindsight maybe would have helped you?
I mean, you just have to be relentless. And you've got to want it more than anything you've ever wanted in your life. I mean, there were times that, my wife would look at me and go like, am I more important to you than Beachy? Cause she was, it was that, I am still that passionate, right? I am like that, I don't give a fuck what you put in my way. Like, we're going to knock it down and we are going to get over it. And we are going, and we're going to win. And so, I just think that's you've got to have that mentality, right? Of just it doesn't, nothing else matters. Right. And and I tell people this all the time. Like, if you work for corporate America and but you've got this idea, this dream that you want to pursue, what are you waiting on? You can always go get a job working for corporate America. Those jobs will always be there.
Yeah.
You've got 1, maybe 2 opportunities to go build something great. And that ride, it's a rush that I can now, if you haven't done it, you'll never get it. The rush of building something is it's just a high that, I don't know, I'm still chasing, right? I don't want to ever, I don't ever want to come down. And once you catch it, catch that bug, you just can't think about doing anything else. And you'll wake up thinking about your idea. You go to sleep thinking about your idea. You wake up in the middle of the night, you're writing notes about your idea. And I still do that, 7 years later. And I'm as passionate today as I was the day we started the company. And so anyway, that's a long way to say, you just got to go get it. And you just can't let anything stand in your way. I'm not telling you to go mortgage your house or max all your credit cards, right? I did both of those things. I have, a significant amount of my net worth, invested in Beachy. I've invested in every round of funding that we've ever done. And I will continue to invest in every round of funding that we do, as long as I can, because I want to own as much of this as I can, for the inevitable outcome.
Yeah. At this point in Beachy's kind of, timeline, it sounds like you've gone to different vendors, your partnerships have expanded, and I'm sure the responsibilities for you as a founder have changed. I guess what in particular is difficult about your job today?
Yeah. I think it goes back to still for me is patience, right?
Yeah.
In managing a team that, if we had a team of 100 salespeople and we were just 100 salespeople, I know how to manage that team really well. But, when you have customer support, customer success, you have, product management, you have sales, you have, QA, you have, then you have all your engineering team, and you have, different people are just, need to be managed differently, or need to be not treated differently isn't the right word, but the expectations of different people are, it's just different. And so you can have a conversation with one group of people that you can have that same conversation, but you're going to have it differently with another group of people. And I think it's reading the room. I think it's leading with compassion, but giving a shit about the people you work with. One of the things that we do at Beachy when you start is we'll fly you into town for your first couple of days of work and I want you to bring your wife and kids if you're married and have a family, or bring your boyfriend or whatever, right? Your girlfriend, your significant other. And I want to spend time getting to know them too. I have a list on my desk of every single person that works for Beachy, the name of their spouse, the name of their kids, the name of their pets, right? When we're making a big decision, I'll pull that out. I'll look at it. I think about it all the time, because this company isn't about me. This company isn't about the founders. This company isn't about, the people that just work for Beachy. The company's about the people that we work with, but it's also about their kids and their spouses and their livelihoods and their future. And so, I think that, being a founder of a company, comes with a lot of responsibilities, and, trying to motivate and lead a team is, super difficult. I think especially now more than ever that everyone's gone, all these companies have gone remote, right? It's like, how do you motivate a team? We're in like 5 countries, with employees now. So it's like, how do you motivate people you've never met?
Right.
That's in person. That's really hard.
Yeah.
And
what are some of the ways you do it?
And so I have this idea. It's not my idea, but it was an idea that it was given to me called Best First Day. Like, I want your first day at Beachy to be the best day you've ever had at any job you'll ever have. And so we do little things around, like, especially if it's someone in another country, like an engineer that we've hired, like we have a team in Poland or South America, Canada, like we can't necessarily fly them in, right, to spend a few days with us here in Florida. So we'll send them like a big care package with swag, and then like a gift card to a restaurant, like, and like hey, like dinner's on us tonight, there's a lot of different things that we've tried. People love swag. I think I've got like 90 things on, say, Beachy right now. So that's my whole wardrobe. But we're always trying to think of new and creative ways to engage with our team that's remote, to keep them motivated, keep them going. Because especially on the engineering side, engineering is a grind. Like even if I have the skill set, I don't have the mental capacity to sit on my computer and do it. So like realizing like how special and like uniquely talented the people on the team are, and making sure that like they get called out when they do something fantastic or like we had an all hands meeting today, and we were talking about, we're celebrating some of our engineers 6 years at Beachy.
Wow.
Like, are you kidding me?
6 years. Yeah.
Like, and two of them, it was the first job they've ever had, in software. We were their first software job. It's like, to keep those guys for 6 years. I think that's an amazing feat.
Yeah.
To keep guys motivated and going and wanting to be here for 6 years, especially just in the, like the jobs and everything that have been out there. So
yeah, I love the Best First Day. And I feel like it just takes, an increment of attention to detail and compassion. I love the leading with compassion piece. I think a lot of founders have echoed on this podcast that, a lot of the challenges of being a founder is it's keeping everybody motivated, but it's really about being centric to, the employees and the experience and also the goal. And it's hard to take yourself away from, what Beachy or the product is doing because, we attach ourselves to it. But once you make that shift, it seems like things can kind of, domino effect in a positive way.
Yeah. I can't tell you, early days, being up at 2-3 in the morning, like troubleshooting issues and stuff. And then me being like, why is no one else up right now doing this with me? Why am I the one, then it's like, well, because people work different hours, right?
Yeah.
Like I like staying up all night. Like they don't, it's just like, in your head, it's really easy, like to get this mentality of, just, I'm gonna, I'll stay up all night. I'll work 24 hours a day. And like, I hate this whole idea of like hustle culture and like, that I work harder than you because I work 22 hours a day. Like, I don't really buy into any of that. It's just like, like everyone has their jobs to do. Let's go get it done. But I want to build it as a team. Like when we talk about wins with our sales team, like we don't call out individual people. It's like, hey, the sales team has been working their ass off. Like we closed, the sales team closed 4 deals in the last 3 weeks. Yeah. And this is what that means for the business. It's just like, cause it's a team effort, right? No, and we don't have any individual contributors on our team. If you can't work as a team, then get credit as a team and give credit as a team, then like, this isn't the right place for you.
Yeah.
And I just like to think that like, leading with compassion, like we're a group of people that like give a shit about each other. Like we genuinely like being together when we're together. Like we're having a offsite meeting next week. And I've gotten a couple messages from a few of the people that are going to be there. Like, hey Dave, like, dude, so excited to hang out next week. Like, what bar are we going to on Wednesday night? And it's just like, and like, that to me is really exciting. Like I'm excited to see some of these folks, that I haven't seen in 3 months. That's the last time we all got together. We do it every quarter. And then like, so that to me is like important. You got to like the people you work with.
Yeah. Yeah. In regards to Beachy, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face today?
Oh man. Talent, we're recruiting and hiring. That's incredibly difficult. Yeah. Even, being fully remote. We just hired like a new engineer last week. But that process took a few months to get the right person. Yeah. And we've got like three or four more open jobs right now that we're hiring for, and just, being selective about who we bring into the team and making sure that we get the right person. So that's, I mean, hiring I think will remain a significant challenge for us moving forward. And then, I mean, integrations for us are always hard, right? I mean, integrating into, we're dealing with point of sale systems, that are still in use in the hospitality system that I think are built on Windows 95, or I think some of them have they still have the green and black screens from, they're not even, it's just
Ferris Bueller days.
Okay. So it's, trying to integrate into these old systems. I mean, it's certainly a challenge. Yeah. And I think that, listen, the hospitality is tough, right? I mean, for those on the podcast that don't know a whole lot about it, I mean, you've got, the owners of the hotels, and you got the management group, and that management, maybe Marriott or Hilton, or, it could be one of 1,000 management companies, but then you've got the on-site staff, and there's just all these different departments. And so when we go in and close a big deal, there could be 8 different departments involved in one deal. And that makes things, it's a complicated sales cycle and navigating all of that. And I think that we've done an incredibly good, especially in the last 24 months of exceptional growth. But that process is always still, it's just a little sticky, especially when there's a hotel that really wants our product, but it's owned by Marriott, managed by Davidson, and then this other piece is managed by Hilton. And it's just I don't know, there's we have to get approval from 3 different companies, from Marriott, from Davidson, and from Hilton, before we can take our product onto the location, right? And you're just why? This shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard. So those are the biggest challenges this year.
Yeah. If everything goes well, what's the long-term vision for Beachy?
I want to do this forever. So I don't know exactly what that means. I get asked this question a lot. If I wake up 25 years from now, I'm 37 years old. If I wake up, and I'm 65 years old and I'm still doing this, I will have lived an amazing life. We are having so much fun. I wake up every day excited to go to, and as long as I'm doing that, I'm going to be doing this.
Yeah.
And so as long, and if not, then, I don't know what that means. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us out there. I mean, whether it's a PE exit or, even a strategic exit. I mean, who knows?
Sure.
Those are not things that I think about. I think about waking up, every morning, going to work, keeping my head down, staying humble, and just creating exceptional product that, our end users are going to fall in love with, and, happier, making happier guests.
Yeah. I guess I don't know if this question is valid for you, but if you weren't working on Beachy, what else would you be doing?
I mean, I keep telling my wife that I just want to buy a catamaran. I follow all these families on YouTube that have catamaran sailboats to sail around the world. I'm that sounds incredible. I would definitely want to do that. I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. And so she's that's just not, in the cards for us for at least another 15 years. But yeah, I mean, that's, I'd be doing just something on anything around the water. I want to be on the beach every day. I want to be out fishing. I've got fishing poles behind me, I've got we have a boat where we spend a ton of time on the boat, just out fishing, looking around the water. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah. I always like to ask the next question, not only for my audience, but also for selfish research purposes. But whether it was early in your career or now, what people or books have influenced you the most?
Oh man. So, there's a few. And so in Nashville, I had an hour commute to work each way every day.
Yeah.
So I would read books, or listen to podcasts or read books on my car, or not read them, but, listen to them in my car. And I would do it on 2 times speed, so I could get through a book in a couple days. And so if there's a book, I probably haven't read it, but I've probably listened to it. And so I would say my favorite chapter of any book I've ever read it's chapter 2 in Extreme Ownership, where he talks about there's no bad teams, there's just bad leaders. It's an incredibly powerful story that he tells. I don't know if you read the book. Extreme Ownership's a great book, and Jocko Will, Navy SEAL, talks about there's no bad teams, just bad leaders. So you can read the chapter or read the book. It's really good. And then a book I've read more than any other book is called Scaling Up. It's the Rockefeller Principles to Business. You could read the first chapter of that every day for the rest of your life. I think I learned something. And then another book that we talk about a lot at Beachy is I've got 3 books in my head. Never Split the Difference.
Yeah.
We're talking about, working with our sales team. I think that's a really good one. And then, 0 to 1, Peter Thiel's book. I think every startup founder needs to read that book at least once a year. So yeah, that's kind of a handful of books that have had an influence on me. And certainly I think every startup founder should read those books.
That's amazing. And I definitely have read the Split the Difference. And it's so fascinating that the way you ask questions could really get to common ground with whoever you're speaking with. And even if there's a level of friction, or even if there's a level of, I guess, cooperation that you both have in whatever circumstance or scenario, it's so fascinating the mechanics behind how he describes how to do it. And I know we're coming to the close of the episode, so I won't take too much more of your time, but I'd like to give my guests a chance to give us your plugs. What's your website? What's your LinkedIn's, your Twitters, your socials? Where can we find and be a fan of Beachy? And even where can we even use the product? And what are some of the partners that you're excited that you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, so maybe not most, but we're on a lot of 4 and 5 star hotel properties. Yeah, like I said, about 1,000 hotel destinations, maybe even more than that now, across the United States and the Caribbean. Most of, a good portion of those are in South Florida. I mean, Miami is probably our biggest market, as you can imagine. But we're out in your neck of the woods too. We're out in California, and we're, in Lake Tahoe, and we're in, different. I mean, we're like Rosewood properties are a really good property of ours out there. But finding me on social media is pretty easy. I'm super active on LinkedIn, just, David Stange. And then all of our socials are just at Beachy or at Beachy app. And our website's www.beachyapp.com.
Amazing. Well, David, I hope you enjoyed yourself, and thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast.
Best podcast I've ever done, Julian. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you, man.